Guy. B stands for brother. How are you?
Right,
Good to see
brother.
you.
That's true. B
Yeah,
stands
brother.
for brother. I'm
Yeah.
doing well.
By the way,
I'm doing well.
if I ever brother pal you in the same, have I done that before? Like I
No,
hit you with
because
like
I've seen you do that to people. It typically is when you don't know that individual's name and you pal them or brother them or a sport.
well, you add a
and
little
it's so
extra.
derogatory. It
It's
really
not.
is.
It's not. No, again, if I called you champ, it would be derogatory. If I hit you with a sport, it would be. But if I'm telling you, I had a guy that was actually. I took my kids to camp today. They were doing some surfing, and these guys were unbelievable. They're so good with the kids, and I couldn't express enough love for the guy that I hit him with a buddy, a pal, like over and over again. It was embarrassing. All right, so anyway, look.
You know what? It is a little. That is embarrassing because you're an old dude. You know, these guys are probably ripped. They can surf, and you're like, you're just.
First of all, why? I mean, the presumption is I'm not ripped, but I mean, I can hold my own out there. Two, I mean, why do you assume that these guys are, straight out of Spicoli's van, and
No, I'm thinking more. I'm thinking more. Obviously, we always go back to Point Break because why wouldn't we? But I'm thinking
Bodie.
more
You're thinking
Jack dudes of Point Break. But that's not what you want to talk about. So go ahead.
That's a good point. All right, so because
Bodie is a B, by the way.
Bodie with a B. And we talked about on Fast Money bullion bonds and something else, but we're having some a little alliteration with B's. So I decided to reach into the vinyl time capsule that is
I love when
record
you do
collection.
This. Yeah.
Into the B section and grab
Okay.
the first two B's that I could grab. They could be the same band. They could be different bands. I don't know, but I want you to guess right now.
Okay.
What two B's did I pull?
So it could be, obviously, the greatest B would be the Beatles, but I'm just to throw a couple B's at you. You got Bad Company, Beatles.
Overrated.
You got potentially, now I don't know how you do this. I don't know if Boz Scaggs would be under the B maybe. Or the S. Boz Scaggs could be
interesting. Boz Scaggs would be under B. He would be under B.
Would it be?
Yeah.
Well, is Jethro Tull under T or J? Jethro Tull's under J.
Absolutely Tull.
No, it's not. Jethro Tull is J.
First of all, you think this is a real person, all right? It's filed under Tull because when you refer to Tull,
you're wrong. All right, so what would Leonard Skinner be under?
L.
I agree with that.
Yeah. But Tull is just, anyway.
But Jim Croce would be under the C's. It wouldn't be under the J's.
Of course. All right. So
anyway, okay. So the B you picked out is bread. Look at that, Paul.
Interesting. David Gates. Nice. The presumption that I have bread in my collection is a little bit kind of an insult, actually. Even though we're both sensitive '70s one-hit wonder dudes.
Bread. Let me say no. First of all, I know you pull your album out, but Bread had at least 4 terrific songs. So go ahead.
All right. So I pulled out the band.
The band.
And
wow.
these
fantastic.
They couldn't be more diametrically opposed. Then I pulled out Bananarama.
No, that's embarrassing. That is embarrassing.
It is embarrassing, but what's extraordinary? And I'm not. This Bananarama album, Bananarama album.
Right.
Who, by the way, Cruel Summer in the start of the Karate Kid movies kind of sets the whole scene there. This album, unopened. Unopened.
As it should be.
Unopened. I mean, I'm telling you.
You know what? You should keep that unopened.
Should we open it up for people
No.
All right.
Because what you're seeing now is
he throws those things off.
Don't throw it away.
So I don't need to necessarily hide behind any musical taste I have or don't have. I mean, I have Bananaramas in my collection. The band, however, do you know the history of the band? By the way, why
don't you read me a few lines?
No, I won't. But I mean, Levon Helm, Robbie Robertson, Rick Danko. These guys were the backup band for Bob Dylan, and that album came out in 1968. But let's go back into the market.
Hold on. So let me ask you a question. So would this move today? Would it be perhaps the last waltz for the market? See what I mean?
Interesting. I see what you did. I think ultimately, what I said on the show was backlash. I would almost, let me come up with a good B. Well, you know what we might be getting? The market might be getting a Badfinger, if you know what I mean. Because I think, Badfinger, by the way, great band as well. But what is the Badfinger? The Badfinger is the middle finger. And if you think about what the Fed can only do tomorrow, I think that they could potentially give some sense of zero rates to infinity. But I worry about the Fed that needs to talk about some ethos of the economy that's getting better. And all of that is totally inconsistent with where Fed policy is. I think, and I'm going to get out there and say this again, we talk about the Fed, and I think we're both equally frustrated, if not have a fair amount of venom. I think this is a bigger asset bubble they are creating than the housing bubble. All we've done, though, is transfer it from the private sector over to the public sector. So I think the market, for all of my constructive tone in the last few months, I am now getting very, very concerned. In the moves we saw, 11% in Netflix today, 8% in Facebook, 7% in Tesla. Other big cap tech names are up 2-3%, is nothing short of scare. These are massive, massive blow-off moves. And they tell you, when you layer in also market sentiment, bull bear indicators, some of the advisor, AAII, investor retail. I mean, the numbers everywhere you look. The S&P is now, 4% over the pre-COVID highs, and trading at a relative strength indicator that tells you at a minimum we have to pull back. And I'm not calling for the sky to fall, because until the Fed gets totally out of the way, or says they'll start to get out of the way, this thing goes sideways. But I'm worried right now.
Yeah, it's easy to make sense of things after the fact. I mean, maybe it should have been obvious to me that the market would rally during the Republican National Convention. I guess that somewhat makes sense. Tomorrow being the last day the Fed speaks tomorrow. My B word would be horse hockey. And then you'd say to me, well, it doesn't begin with B. And that's because I can't say bullshit on air, but I'll say it here because the entire
Say that
thing,
again.
you like what
was that liberating? I mean, you put a little bit of like throatiness in the bullshit. You really,
you think so?
You leaned in.
Did I emphasize? Maybe I should have hesitated a little bit more. I don't know.
You leaned in.
But you want your foundation to be built on terra firma, and I think this foundation is built in sand. And the Fed's going to have a lot of. I think a lot of the rally over the last couple of days was the headline that we got that the Fed was basically going to have a fundamentally changed way that they view inflation, which means you're never going to see inflation from them ever. Meanwhile, and we've talked about this, inflation is all around you. I mean, lumber prices have quadrupled in the last 6 months. I mean, major things are going on. Housing prices, asset prices. There's inflation. They just
the housing bubble is going to be. I mean, think about the ability also in smaller, regional areas, but again, smaller cities, more regional areas, suburban areas, for the house flipping to go on now. The fire that's been lit under those markets is a lot more extraordinary on some level on a relative basis to what you can see in the urban level. It just means that the prices are lower. So I think the housing bubble is something that is only just getting going. And the good news for people that are investing alongside of it, I still think, and we've had this conversation on Fast Money, if you look at the components and if you look at some of the, whether it's a Sherwin-Williams or whether it's a Trane or a Carrier who make HVAC equipment, or Masco who makes building materials, I think these are the more interesting part of that housing trade.
And folks, if you're one of those guys or gals that's putting your albums in alphabetical order and putting Jethro Tull under the T's, you're doing it wrong. I'm just letting you know. That's just the more you know moment with Guy Adami.
So
just putting it out there.
Thanks for the trade school. Who's the band leader of Jethro Tull?
Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson is Jethro Tull. I mean, you see, you were hoping I didn't know that, so you can make me look like a fool, an F word, not a B word. But I digress.
It's interesting. All right, so you know that Jethro Tull is not a person, but it's weird, right? How you think the same thing about Molly Hatchet, but nonetheless,
and Molly Hatchet, if you're playing at home,
she played a mean guitar, Molly. I mean, she shredded it and really put like female Southern rock bands on the map, right?
Can we pick this up tomorrow?
Bye.
See you later.